This is The Boys podcast from TV Podcast Industries. We're talking about The Boys Season 2, Episode 5. We gotta go now.
I just got off the phone with Butcher, and I think something might be wrong.
What would make you think that?
He was nice.
Tell me everything he said.
Welcome back, fellow boys and girls. We're on The Boys Season 2, Episode 5. We gotta go now. I'm one of your hosts, Darick.
Hello there, fellow boys and girls. Yes, I am one of your other hosts, John. I'm about to do my trick. Squeak, squeak.
And rounding out the trio of podcasters, I am Chris. And I'm not going to give you a rendition of a Louie Louie. Oh, no, we gotta go.
Excellent. Well done, Chris.
Yeah. Nope.
Excellent. In reference to the title of the episode, Chris?
Yes, I just couldn't fit in the now part. It was close.
It's close. It's very close. It's very close. Welcome back, everybody. We're on episode 5 of our coverage of The Boys, the 8-episode series, our second season on Amazon Prime. So quite a bit into the series now. Only 3 more episodes left.
I know, it's gone really quickly. Really enjoyed it. So, yeah, I am looking forward, though, to the next 3 episodes. I reckon if the end of this episode is anything to go by, it's going to get pretty out there.
Yeah, I think so. If you're missing The Boys or if you want some more of The Boys, guess what I found last week, guys? I found an audiobook version of the first volume, the omnibus of The Boys. It's about 4 or 5 hour audio drama version of the comics. And it's actually very good. There's one notable exception in the cast, and when you get to that person, you'll recognize them. But it's not one of the main cast of the show. All of them are cast very well, and they act very well in the parts. But I forgot how much more gruesome and much more adult the book actually is in comparison to the show. I was really surprised. There's quite a few things that are in there that I'm going, oh, okay. I don't know whether I was prepared to go back to this. I thought it was a little more gruesome than I was expecting in some places, which is bizarre for an audiobook.
Yeah, I was trying to think of how do they make squelching sounds?
Yep.
It's just like, okay.
Yep. Full
goes through head.
Yeah, full cast audio, full sound design, everything. You can get that over on Audible. Just go and search for The Boys, Garth, Ennis, and you'll be able to find it. It's worth checking out if you have 4 or 5 hours to spare on a commute, or if you're working from home and trying to listen to some interesting stuff other than podcasts. There you go.
Yeah, nice.
Just remember to pause it before you go on any conference calls, because that in the background could be very weird.
Yeah, and
watermelon smashing.
I definitely suggest headphones, without a doubt.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it sounds pretty good. But remember, fellow boys and girls, you can also subscribe to TV Podcast Industries over at tvpodcastindustries.com, or you can subscribe, leave a review, rate us over on any drunk or sober podcast player of your choice. Please head on over there, because sharing the podcast is, dare I say it, sharing the love. Yes, or the rough sex, as per this episode.
Or the squeaky toy.
Well, the squeaky toy.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to help us keep the lights on, the mics going, and everything in between, you can head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, where you can support us for $1 and a bit. Whatever you like, because, hey, we would appreciate you. Mm-hmm. As much as Terror appreciates Homelander's squeaky toy.
Yes, we appreciate you all equally. Thank you so much for all the support as well. Let's get into the episode details for episode 5 of season 2 of The Boys. The episode was written by Ellie Monahan, who co-wrote the penultimate episode of season 1, Self-Preservation Society, so stayed on board for the writer's room of season 2. Kind of cool.
Yeah, nice stuff.
Mm-hmm. And the episode was directed by Batan Silva. It's his first episode of The Boys. He's a Mexican director who's worked on TV shows like Mayans MC and SWAT, but he's also an assistant director who's been working in movies for years, including Desperado, Babel, Clear and Present Danger, and Titanic, interestingly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, it's,
I always called it Babel.
Babel?
Yeah,
Babel.
Tower of Babel or Tower of Babel?
Tower of Babel, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, pronunciation.
Yeah, potato, potato, tomato, tomato, Babel.
Babel. Yeah, I think you need 2 B's for it to be Babel, but I don't know. I could be wrong. Maybe an Ellie. That's all semantics. All semantics. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with the synopsis for this episode of The Boys?
Sure. The Seven begin filming their upcoming epic Dawn of the Seven with Joss rewrites, and while A-Train doesn't want to leave the production nor the Seven, Maeve just can't wait to get off the set as Homelander turns the screw on her and Elenor. Still reeling from Becca's rejection of him, Billy Butcher intimates he is leaving the boys and heads to his other family, Aunt Judy, the dealer, and his 4-legged friend, Terror. Tracked to his aunties by Mother's Milk and Hughie, he is persuaded to stay after an encounter with Black Noir in Judy's Taffy Room. Back on set, Starlight obtains information about Stormfront from her laptop, and Stormfront gets her claws into Homelander after she helps him out of a sticky situation following a dreadful PR disaster, and then gets her claws into him some more.
Nice. Lots of single entendres there, John. Well done.
Wow.
And yes, I think the PR disaster could have been even worse, as we saw in the episode.
Well, yeah, definitely.
So, yeah, I'm sure we're going to get into it. Let's kick in with our protagonist moment. Chris, do you want to kick us off with your boys moment for the episode?
Do you guys want a happy ending? Well, it ain't that kind of massage parlor. Straight up, this was one of the really best parts for me, and it was really just Butcher and Hughie's heart to heart, if we want to call it that. All the while, initially that first scene when they are in the house, and we start to kind of get this opening initial change in the actual, I hate to use that term, growth of Butcher's character. So he does he starts with, this is not going, like, as I said, you want the happy ending. It ain't that kind of massage parlor. And it just I was like, okay, this is where he's going to shut it down. This is the end. And it almost is, until we do get that kind of Black Noir reveal.
Yeah.
And then it does continue, and you start to see how, through kind of connecting the dots through his auntie and all about Lenny and just that growth up until the big fight. Or if we
not call it that.
Can we the explosive conclusion of it? We do see, like, initially it was like, okay, Hughie is the canary. And that is the canary in the coal mine. Like, we need him to know when you're going too far. And we discussed that in previous episodes on kind of what that means to Butcher and the rest of the boys. Yeah. But here we actually find there's more to it. That Hughie is too much like his dearly departed brother. And how that is actually affecting Butcher. Up until this point, has been affecting him negatively. Yeah. That he just wants to escape that reminder. To a degree. Yeah. Escape that reminder, because Hughie kind of reminds him too much. The actions remind him too much. But at the end, it's actually that reminder that is played out again in a different kind of form, where we got the story about Lenny and how Butcher kind of, quote unquote, saved him, or vice versa. Yeah. And then we see it replayed with Hughie and Black Noir and Butcher stepping in and kind of history repeating itself. So we kind of do get a happy ending. It's not the happy ending. It's not a finale. Yeah. It's more of a end of Act 1.
Well, exactly. Yeah, Billy seemed like he was very much ready to walk away from everything here, from the opening of the episode where we had that fight scene in the rock bar, I guess we call it, the metal bar, where he throws the first punch and just creates this massive brawl that's going on, which was an awesome scene. But you can see from that moment onwards what Billy's trying to do here is he's now ready to give up everything. So it's not that he's going to be going off to this beautiful place and Baja or wherever he's going to head off to. It's that he's willing to die now and wants somebody to take him out, basically. So we see that throughout the episode. There's numerous moments where he stands up to Black Noir trying to get him to kill him, because Black Noir could just slice through Billy instantly, basically, and he's constantly standing in front of him, putting himself in the line of fire, pretty much because his entire reason for being and entire reason for setting up the boys is gone now. His wife that he was going after, Becca, has pushed him away, turned him down on the offer of saving him, and now he's kind of going, well, there's no real point in any of this. And he's also, as you say, Chris, he's thinking back to that time that his brother, who's very like Hughie, someone that he couldn't save, well, there's no point in him staying around. He wasn't able to save his wife. What's the point in him being around Hughie and saving him? So yeah, there's lots going on with Billy.
Yeah, I really liked when Hughie's kind of saying to Mother's Milk, well, he said he was going off grid to Argentina. He was nice. He called me his canary, and it's like, Mother's Milk there's something definitely wrong.
Absolutely. Tell me every single word he says.
I just thought that was really, really good. And yeah, I really liked this move through for Billy Butcher. That, ultimately by the end, he's appreciative of what he does have with the boys, with Hughie, and as well Mother's Milk and Frenchie, and maybe the female. But she's slightly gone off grid herself, I suppose, in this episode. And I do like Aunt Judy here, and the interjection of Lenny's story, his weedy younger brother.
He's like you.
Exactly.
Really weedy.
I really liked it. I liked all these little moments. Yeah. And hopefully, I think this really inserts Billy Butcher back into the boys.
Yeah.
Because for the first couple of episodes, obviously, he's still coming back from the previous season in terms of with the revelation of Homelander, the kid, and where his wife Becca is. And, then he gets obsessed with finding Becca. Yeah. So he is slightly separated from the boys. So yeah, this was really good. I liked his moment with Hughie a lot here, just because of the tension that has been building up between the two of them over the season so far.
Yeah.
So typically, and I know our long-time listeners will kind of say, but Chris, there was a whole Basil exposition scene. I didn't mind it, and I think this was. I want to give a hot tip to the writer's room and the writer of this episode, because it didn't feel forced.
Right.
It actually played out. I don't know. For me, it was weaved into the scenes perfectly.
Right.
Yeah.
In that it didn't feel like they needed to kind of go, let's pause everything and then give you this heart-to-heart raison d'etre of kind of like, here's why Butcher actually is going to grow and care. So that for me was one of the biggest, that they were able to, from start to finish, show that this man had a single goal driving force. He's lost that goal. He was going to give up. And then through his connection to the boys and through Hughie, he's found a new goal.
Yeah.
He's found a new kind of guiding star. So I'm just happy to see now that we're kind of, to a degree, with the boys, we're back to step one. Yeah. We're back at the beginning almost, but everything else has continued on. So they are now reformed. The boys and the female, not yet, but the boys hopefully by the end of the next episode.
Yeah.
With that opposing force of the seven is going to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of my main boys moment, main protagonist moment.
Excellent. Yeah. Just one little thing that I just thought was really interesting about these moments with Billy Butcher. Anybody else find it weird? Like, this is the main character of the show, who's the big violent guy going after all the soups for the last 2 seasons. This character stereotypically is the kind of person that doesn't have any family at all. I found it quite interesting that he has his aunt that he goes and visits, who's taking care of his dog. His parents are on the flight over. He used to have a younger brother. It's just this whole revelation that he actually does have loads of people in his life, because he never once mentioned them. And over again, in fact, to Becca, he was going, you saved my life. I had nothing before you. And you're kind of, this felt like a massive revelation that he has a whole family that are all still around and all still alive, all still care for him, what his parents do anyway. They're flying over to see him.
But he doesn't like his dad.
But he doesn't like his dad. Absolutely. Yeah. So I just thought it was interesting. I don't know why. I think it's just so stereotypical in movies where you get this kind of violent, protagonist in the show or in a movie, and they usually have no family at all, so they're able to go out and do whatever they want to and not fear for their life because they leave no one behind. But he has loads of people to leave behind.
It's the Frank Castle situation.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So exactly, like say, we've killed off your whole support structure so that you can be the lone gunman, the crazy psycho.
Exactly.
But yeah, he's just the crazy psycho who has this huge support structure, but doesn't like having a support structure.
Exactly. And if Billy Butcher is any comic character, it is the Punisher, right?
Yes.
That's probably the biggest analogous character for Billy Butcher. John, or Chris, have you finished there on your first point?
Yeah, no, I think that's the end. So let's move it on, boys.
I suppose it's a really quick point, and it is one of Billy Butcher's other support structures, which is his doggy Terror.
Oh, little Terror.
Just, obviously getting his little cuddly toy with the little squeak in it, and then finally coming back to his aunties where you've got his dog Terror. And I suppose the reason why I'm bringing this up is I read the first kind of compiled volume of the boys' comic books, and Terror is right there. He's as irreverent as his owner, Billy, and so it was great to see the Terror here on screen, and just, even just them having that little walk in the auntie's estate where he's trying to sort of get back into the vibe, I suppose, a bit, Billy Butcher, reconnecting with his auntie, and that's it, really, in effect. I mean, we have Terror as well, sort of at least contemplating about helping to save the day in the big Black Noir fight as well, but I suspect a British Bulldog probably ain't that effective against someone like Black Noir. So having the dog there, everything that Chris was talking about with Hughie and Butcher, and with the auntie and the story of Lenny, having that real constant for Billy Butcher, which is his four-legged friend Terror, was just helped seal all of that for me, and I thought it was really good. And I don't think, even though I know just before we started up the podcast, you were saying that he was in season 1. I just don't remember that at all. I think there were hints of the dog Terror, but I can't remember seeing him. But maybe he was in season 1. But if not, then it's also just the first time that we do get Terror on screen.
This is terrible. John's put us all on the spot because myself and Chris are completely convinced that Terror was in an episode, the first episode, I think, of the first season.
I'm the one that's probably wrong. I'm absolutely convinced of it. But I just always remember the hint of Terror was there, because I remember us having that conversation that, you don't want to work with kids and animals on a show.
So in the flashbacks, Butcher's flashbacks with Becca.
Yes, now I remember.
That is where we originally see Terror sitting in the apartment. It's in multiple flashbacks. When he was thinking about his previous life, we were never told where Terror went to.
No, I definitely remember that. Yeah, now that you say it, Chris, I definitely remember.
Yeah, I do now.
There we go. Yeah. Right, we got him.
That is where we discussed
why Terror is really important. Is in the comic books, Terror is the person that Billy shares everything with. Billy constantly is talking to Terror when he's on his own and wants to get something off his mind. It's Terror that he talks to. So if you're only going to be able to use a dog in the show, because it's very difficult to train a dog, very difficult to film with an animal. If you're only going to use it one time, this is the time, because this is where Billy needs that interaction most, basically. So I really like that. You see him having the walk in the street with the dog. He sees a guy going past him, an old man going past him, and that's where he questions his existence more than any other point that we've seen Billy in the last season and a half. He's there going, is life even worth living anymore? He's lost Becca. He thought he'd grow old with her, and now he's just going to grow old, and that's it. That's all that he has to look forward to, is growing old. So that's the conversation he has with the dog. That's why Terror is so important, I think, and that's why I loved the use of him in here. And he's cute as hell, so really nice to see him.
Yeah.
He is. He's a fun little character. I don't know whether I'd like to be anywhere near Terror, because one word from Billy and he just ripped me to shreds, basically. So yeah, if you are Billy, you want to be near that dog, is what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting because in the comic books, Terror is such a pivotal character. He is another member of the boys.
Mm-hmm.
He is his own character. We get like everything bar speech bubbles and his thoughts kind of thing, because he is talked to as a character. So they've kind of they started to show that here, as you said, on the walk down the street, but even when he just kind of goes and we see Terror again for the first time there in the dog bed, and Billy actually does straight up talk to him like a human.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's great to see him.
Excellent.
For sure. I think that's why Terror's presence was bigger than the amount of screen time. It helped ground Butcher. It helped with all those little moments that, as Chris said, that exposition with Butcher and Aunty Judy, Butcher and Hughie, as well as their own little moments together. It was just really, really nice and good to see Terror back in and not in a flashback.
Exactly. Very cool. I'm going to take it on my boys moment and my protagonist moment for the episode.
Yep.
I think everything really revolves around Billy Butcher in this episode, really. So the other major protagonist that we haven't really talked about too much is the female and what's happening with her at the moment. Really surprising moment. I thought she was going after someone very specifically connected to Stormfront, is where I thought this was leading us, where we have Frenchie following her down the street and she walks into this Russian bar where the three Russians are talking to each other. They're talking about Hamilton. They were talking about being Evan Hansen, two big musicals in New York. Just thought it was really interesting. It felt like those kind of conversations, as I said, that you would get in Tarantino movies, where you have the bad guys talking about really mundane things. But we have Kimiko walking in and using full-on powers with these guys. I do not remember her being as bulletproof as she is in this scene. I knew that she had powers. I knew that she was certainly very high, very strong, and had great abilities. But I don't think I remember seeing anybody point a gun directly at her and shooting her, 8 times full force in the chest, and her not reacting at all to it as she rips everybody apart in that room as she goes through. It's a really brutal, violent scene.
It really was.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the scene from when we covered Punisher season 2 in the Russian gym.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We went, that was really violent. This one for me was just ripped straight out of a comic book, and I'm using ripped as a fun word because she literally face off.
Exactly.
Off. I literally wanted to see Nicolas Cage just doing that.
I am never going to get a cosmetic face peel ever again, because I just felt this was your cosmetic worst nightmare. Just that you put on your cucumbers and the next day you've just got your kind of skeletal face. She ripped that good. It felt like a waxing gone wrong or something like that,
But it absolutely also felt Terminator-like as she went through each of the guys.
Yeah.
I think she snaps the second guy's neck. I think we don't really see exactly what happens. We hear cracks. He falls to the floor. The third guy, we see him fall to the floor with the butt of the gun planted in his face, and that just really felt brutal from her. Yeah. And I think this is what is kind of interesting about her, that she knows exactly who it is that caused the death of her brother, right? She saw it. So she knows that it's Stormfront, and she's been told by Frenchie, well, there's nothing you can do about it because she's too powerful. She will kill you instantly if you try, basically. So she's now using this new job that she has to go out and take out her vengeance effectively on anybody that she's being sent towards. Interestingly, it's Sherry that's sending her on these jobs, which is, it's
for the Albanians.
Isn't that really intriguing? Like, we were wondering earlier on in the season, where's Sherry? Frenchie's kind of on again, off again girlfriend. Oh, okay. She works for the Albanians, and she sends out contract killers to kill everybody in the city that the Albanians want dead. That was a bit of a surprise. That was more of a surprise to me, I think, in some ways, that she was so much more involved in this story with the female, especially because she didn't seem to say anything to Frenchie about it. It feels like when Frenchie went and told her everything that had gone on with the female, she was like, I better call her and see if I have a job for her now.
Well, I think that was it. I felt the three Russians, I thought that was something to do with trying to get to Stormfront. And then and I just thought Frenchie was late to the gig effectively and had to follow her through the back of the restaurant or the takeout. And so then when he's following her into the church, I thought this was just part of this kind of, I don't know what they were doing, tracking, investigating or something. And then it was just that he's kind of shocked and he's totally unaware of this as well.
Yeah.
Because this is her vent, as you say. So, it was good because I think it's great seeing that fallout for her. And certainly, as you say, because she is literally so powerful as Stormfront compared to Kimiko. However, I was surprised she was bulletproof, actually. Yep. I that kind of went, okay. She might be in the comics as well, but I can't remember that either, so...
Most people in V are pretty unkillable. That's kind of where...
That's true.
Yeah, you heal, but you're not kind of nigh invulnerable. So this seems like a bit of a step up for her, powers-wise. I'm not opposed to it, because they can just kind of say that she's using her powers more and she's growing, blah, blah, blah. Personally, this felt slightly like a missed opportunity for me. So, if essentially, I thought when she was going in that, and she kills the Russian, she goes in the back, I was expecting another soup terrorist being given Compound V. And this was her chasing down leads on soup terrorists that Stormfront and X and Vought are bringing into the country. So it was a continuation of the Rising Sun storyline. That felt, now that we know it was Sherry and it was the Albanians just trying to knock off some of their competition, I'm hoping it comes back into play, because otherwise it's just we want to show you how powerful female is. You also, obviously, we get and we'll probably talk about it in a second, Darick, the confrontation between Frenchie and female in the church. But it's just, other than that, it just felt... Yeah, because
to me, this isn't a piece about how powerful the female is. This is a piece about how broken she is now, with everything that's gone on, with her not having the ability to go after Stormfront, given everything that's going on. And I think it comes to a head in that conversation, because we have her using her made-up sign language that only herself and her brother know, and she's using it to try and tell Frenchie to leave her alone and get out of there. And I think I realized watching the episode at the same moment that as Frenchie actually says the words, he's like, I don't understand what you're talking about, because you wouldn't teach me how to communicate with you. So she's lost her brother, the only other person on the planet that's able to communicate with her this way. She's now back to being completely alone here, and has been told she can't avenge her brother's death either, even though she has these super magnificent powers that she can rip apart anybody else on the planet, but she can't go after the one person that she wants to go after. So this really felt like a big moment for her, and another ending, I suppose, almost, for her relationship with the boys, and particularly with Frenchie. So the frustration that comes with Frenchie, where he's going like, I'm out, I'm done, because you didn't let me in beforehand, and now we have no way of communicating in any way together. So he leaves her, as well as her telling him to go away, even though he doesn't understand. He's also leaving her as well. So
yeah, it's interesting. We've got 3 hours left, technically, of the season. So I'm interested to see how they bring her back into the fold ahead of the inevitable, my assumption is inevitable, confrontation with Stormfront at the end of the season. I could be wrong. Stormfront could be another main lead for season 3. We know we're getting season 3. So it'll be interesting to see. But overall, I'm interested now. As you said, it's an ending, so it's interesting to see how they bring her back into the fold. We've brought Butcher back in, so I wonder how will he play a part in bringing her back?
Yeah,
kind of like I hate the Seven and the Soups weren't with us, and it was like him being the olive branch, if you will. But it'd be interesting to see.
And as we mentioned before, the weird thing about that would be he's the one that absolutely hates anybody with V in their body. So so would he go with the female and bring it back? So yeah, it's just an interesting moment for her as a character in the show, definitely. Chris, take us on to our antagonist moments. What happened with the Seven that you were interested in this episode?
Sure. So we joked about the PR disaster, but I actually want to talk about Homelander, the war criminal, because this beat for me, that played out throughout the story, was really interesting, because so we're reintroduced to the Seven in the film set, and we see Homelander being Homelander, and we get the introduction of the video where he was going after a soup terrorist, and basically shoots down, lands, as you would expect, like in a real life superhero to do. Zzz, alright, you're dead, bye, and flies off, and not knowing that there was huge collateral damage. Now, we know from the VOD discussions that 30 to 40% collateral damage is fine, but officially it's a 0% policy. So, the fact that this gets out, and we get some classic lines that I will not repeat on this podcast, just around people having cell phones, and I was just like, oh, they're painting him down to be that person, to be that, like, we already knew how egotistical, self kind of fulfilling prophecy in his head of like how he is the god, a god,
absolutely,
among men. But it's just now becoming greater and greater throughout this episode. Yeah. So we then see the downfall of this and how he's told, let Vought handle it, let the PR machine work. He does not. So we're reintroduced to Victoria Newman, an analog of Vic, the Veep, Vic Newman from the comic books. So Vic in the comic books is the vice president. In the show, Victoria is a congresswoman, I believe, but who is against the Seven. Whereas we'll go more into Vic, the Veep, later in Chris's Corner. But we see Homelander come into the anti-Homelander protest and land, and we see that they are riling up. Well, I say riling up, not really. They're protesting Vought, like, as you would expect, when as all this is happening, like, over the last 24, 48 hours since the two episodes we've seen. Compound V, the truth is out there. There has been a lot of PR disasters. This is the latest. Homelander does come down, flies, and please tell me we all kind of clutched our pearls as he explodes, and you see him cut down waves of the protesters.
I absolutely thought that's what he'd just done.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's probably partly to do with Ashley, who's reacting to everything he's saying at the press conference, going, no, please don't get here. Please, you should not be here talking on your own without prep. I told you not to talk without prep, kind of thing. And the way that she's reacting, you absolutely feel, I definitely agree with you, Chris. I felt he is doing this right now. He's just given up. He's slaughtering all the people here. It's definitely a moment that I thought was going to be the big turning point for the Seven in the show, was that now the American people can see them for who they are.
Yeah, that was huge
definitely
for me, and that's exactly what I thought. I thought, like, oh my god, they're gonna kill the Seven and bring in Payback, and that's how they introduce in this other team. And we're going, oh my god, they can do this and then this and then this, because it's just it was so vivid, if you want to call it. Obviously, it was vivid in his head.
Absolutely, because it's even good to bring into this point here, Chris, that something that they referenced quite a bit in season 1, Homelander going over to kill off this soup in another country, unplanned and unscripted, let's say, by Vought.
Non-sanctioned.
Well, I'm going to say unscripted because it's specifically what we saw in season 1 was every time the Seven were sent out on a mission, it was completely scripted. Cameras were there in the right angles to promote them doing their job. Whereas this is Homelander going off on his own, going, well, I did this to save them, and he slaughters this guy, gets captured on video phone because of the collateral damage, and this is what's happened to him. From a Vought perspective, that's, well, you went out and did a mission which we didn't even give you. We didn't even tell you to go and do that. Yeah. So he's going completely off script, and this is the kind of thing that happens in terms of the way the Vought managed their soups, you know?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I really liked the PR disaster that ensues with Homelander, but mainly because of how it then links him or effectively attaches him to Stormfront, because of this favor effectively Stormfront is co-opting Homelander's arrogance along with his symbolism, for her ends, or that's the way it's looking to me. Mm-hmm. She's going to make sure that she puts his arrogance, his power, his symbolism to the, in the service of this narrow-minded, blinkered nationalism and racism that she absolutely is imbued with, and is her raison d'etre. And I thought that was the really interesting thing here.
Yep. And how's she going to do it, guys, as well?
Through social media.
Through social media and memes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to create a bunch of memes that will appear in your social media feed to convince you that what Homelander did was okay. It was all fake news. We have a version of photographs of the killing that sparked the whole disaster. We have it marked as fake news. This didn't really happen. This kind of stuff. So, I think we can all see what that's alluding to, or what it's talking about.
Very, very, very quickly off topic. I want to shout out Kripke and the writers on this. So, okay, this season 2 started, they probably started penning season 2 18 months ago, initial drafts, and then, so, again, these guys are...
last summer.
They're clairvoyant. Kind of...
Yeah, exactly.
I want them to read my tea leaves, my palm, give me the lotto numbers for next year, because it's just, again, the timing... we've said the same in a lot of the shows we've covered over the last 12 months. It really is amazing how these writers are able to tap into what we did not know would be such a big issue in the future. So just tip of the hat. I suppose it was there before, and I suppose with them working in media, that they're aware of it probably more so than most people. So the thing is, it's always been there. But the thing is, the exposure of it now is even worse, I suppose, with what's going on. But
absolutely,
yeah. So part clairvoyant, but part being in, I suppose, a system where a lot of people from the media would go and do PR jobs and stuff. So it's very, very closely connected in that sense.
And in fairness, some of the specific things that were said by Homelander here have been said 3 and 4 years ago by the specific person they're referencing. It's not like this has only been said in the last 2 or 3 months. That the person that they're referencing has been exactly like this for 4 years. So it's not unusual that they would pick that up and put it in. I suppose it does. There's a reason why it's timed to come out in September when there's an election coming up in November. So that is absolutely what this show is, just highlighting that this is the kind of things that are going on when someone's in power that shouldn't be. But there is another thing that I think is even more clairvoyant, to be honest, and it's totally in the realm of pop culture more so than in the realm of politics. John, you have this as part of your next point. Can we
let's move it
on to you for your next point?
Yeah, absolutely. It is effectively, I've got Queen Maeve's harassment on set of Dawn of the Seven by not only Homelander, but also just the PR team. The approaches of these two people to Queen Maeve, who was outed in the last episode. Homelander kind of sticking it in. Homelander is keeping that pressure, having the a lesbian scene worked into Dawn of the Seven, presumably one of the Joss rewrites, and you
specifically called out. That's
no, exactly.
Just in case you missed the line or didn't have your subtitles on, they specifically say the Joss rewrites of Dawn of the Seven. This is the clairvoyant nature of Eric Kripke, I think, because see what's going on in the news right now after the Snyder Cut announcement and the release of the Snyder Cut, the specific talk of harassment during the time of the filming of that movie has been incorporated into this show to come out the week it's coming out properly in the news at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think with Homelander as well, it's that physical threat and it's that physical as well as mental manipulation of Queen Maeve with her outing, and then now suddenly being that face. But it's all the disingenuousness of it all, because you then have that scene with the PR. And this is the thing that then says, well, you need to wear a suit because you need to be able to show that kind of binary nature of one of you is actually a male and you're the female, because that works best with straight people. And it is just pure hypocrisy, and it is prejudice in its own way. That Elenor and Queen Maeve cannot be themselves because PR dictates that they must look this certain way, you know, and do certain things because of how they're perceived as a gay couple, a lesbian couple, to a non-homosexual audience. And it's really, I've felt quite a lot for Queen Maeve.
Without a doubt, especially because even the relationship itself is almost made up by Homelander.
Yeah,
they're not together. Maeve left Elenor to keep her in safety. They're not together at all, and that's the pressure that's being put on by the PR team to create this relationship for the media so that they can say we have an out lesbian couple, just like the out lesbian couples that middle America love. Look at them. One of them dresses in a suit. All the pressure being put on her, and Eleanor's kind of going, when did we get back together? We haven't even gone out to dinner in 3 years.
All the stereotypes, and even that she says Maeve's bi. She's bisexual.
Yeah. That doesn't play very well.
Exactly. Yeah. So this was just really kind of pretty horrific, actually, in the treatment of Maeve and Elenor. And I think as well, what I liked coming out of it was, you know, the resoluteness of actually Maeve and Elenor, where Eleanor's walking out. She says, you know, because we're not even a couple, I don't need any of this. What are we doing here? I'm never going to wear that kind of stuff. I'm not being told what to do. So she's really resolute about who she is and her feelings for Maeve. And Maeve, obviously, the concern is that physical threat, that murderous, violent threat coming from Homelander on top, you know, that cherry on the top of his homophobia, effectively. Yeah. And that they then say, we'll take him down. Queen Maeve very purposely wanting to take him down, and for better or worse, we see her approach the Deep for a favor, if she gives him a favor, to bring him into the Seven. And I cannot wait to see what comes from this. Now, maybe it will be a lasered bloody mess of these two. I can't really imagine the Deep will come up well against Homelander in a fight, but I'm really looking forward to seeing these two characters coming together, or how Queen Maeve is going to use the Deep, whatever it might be, to take down Homelander.
A surprise attack with a shoal of fish.
Yeah, who's going? We're going to get some more flying dolphins.
Absolutely,
just
entire school
mode.
of dolphins this time.
Save me! So, my part, this is just the treatment is disgusting. But it's played to be disgusting. And even the Portia Allen kind of quote,
exactly.
Even I went, "Ooh, that cuts deep," but all right.
Absolutely.
Overall, like, happy to see the writers back. Love them. Great from back in season one. They were fun in season one. Here they're fun, but you're like, it's a bit too much. The scene with Maeve just kind of almost laying bare, going, I'm doing this to save you. You cannot go anywhere. I can't protect you if you leave. That seemed to be, for me, the trigger point to where you say, we're now going to get Deep Maeve versus the Seven, or the more Homelander and Stormfront, or Deep Maeve versus Homelander, or anyway. It's going to be interesting how that plays out.
I think we actually probably have it in some of our feedback later on as well. Actually, it's why it's in my mind. But we haven't really seen what Queen Maeve is capable of, really since season 1. She's been put on the back burner. She's been hidden away by Homelander a lot, and they tend to stand side by side throughout the first 2 seasons. And we know that she was effectively drinking herself to death because of the pressure that he was putting on her to cover up the things he was doing. But we haven't really seen a huge amount of what she has done. I think one of the opening scenes of the first episode was a truck crashing into her and she destroyed the truck behind her. Remember that as being a particular scene of how much strength she has. But we don't know whether she goes toe to toe or whether her combined with the team going toe to toe with Homelander. We don't know what that's going to end up like, but I hope she has a plan.
We've got some tasters. So there was also, we saw her go toe to toe with, 5-6 guys in the gym. And then we additionally see when she and Homelander went after the terrorist or the bank robbers in season 1, where we see that where she kind of is slightly nigh invulnerable, kind of knocks off the machine gun fire and then bends a weapon. As you said, it's going to be interesting to see that face off.
Maybe a different type of face off in that.
Non-Nicolas Cage face off.
Or maybe if they get the female involved, the Homelander might lose his face in that moment.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing what the pain thresholds are of the Deep and Queen Maeve, because it is, at the moment, you've got people like Gecko or Blind Spot who effectively can be taken out quite easily and don't seem to have any, well, not Gecko, but Blind Spot certainly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Or Gecko is just kind of fairly weak and certainly
he can't die. They can
he'll bend
anything on come back, yeah.
he's kind of fairly supplicant really in terms of what he will do. But then you have the likes of Bulletproof Kimiko, or you see with Stormfront and so on, just how powerful they are. So there must be I'm looking forward to seeing Maeve and the Deep's power and pain threshold.
Yeah.
I think that's everything for this. So, Darick, what is your antagonist moment?
I'm going to stay on the set of Dawn of the Seven to talk a little bit about A-Train in this episode. We had that moment last episode where he was effectively kicked out of the Seven by Homelander with that awful we'll be friends, yada, 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 kind of line to him. So his treatment in this episode, as we have him effectively supposed to be filming his goodbye scene for the movie that's going to reflect the real life leaving of the Seven, where he's fighting so hard to get himself back in there. It's in some ways funny. You can see why it would be a funny scene, but it turns much darker, I think, later on in the episode. We have those early scenes where you see A-Train going, well, I stayed up all night and rewrote the script so I don't have to say goodbye, basically. I've made myself part of the movie again. And the writer's kind of going, sorry, Homelander wants you out. And he has, full rights to everything and control everything here. So way above my pay grade kind of thing. And he out and out refuses to do his leaving speech, but they make him go on set, make him film his speech with Homelander looking at him, and I absolutely love the touch that as he finishes his speech and everybody and it's a really emotionally delivered speech, you see it wasn't even Homelander that was there, it was a stand-in that was used. So that's how little respect they have for him. He has to film his final speech with none of the rest of the Seven even around. I thought that was a lovely touch there. But he goes backstage and meets up with Stormfront, who takes it to the much deeper level, I suppose. The real reason why he's also out of the Seven is because he doesn't fit what she would have wanted him to be in the Seven for. She mentions the fact, I think they see some of the promotional material that the Deep is doing for the Church of the Collective, and Stormfront remembers the time where that was a much closer organization to her beliefs. She was really happy there. There used to be some realness about them as an organization, and then they started to let the trash in. It's such a great line delivery from her, because you know exactly what she means, and so does A-Train. He sees it the second she says it, and then repeats it back to him as well, knowing that he knows, like, this is just the moment showing her real, true racism to A-Train straight in front of him, telling him in no uncertain terms, you're the trash that we're taking out of the 7 as well, kind of thing. You know, she's completely on the side of this choice by Homelander. He didn't make it for that reason. He made it because he doesn't trust A-Train at all because of the drug abuse he's been doing and the heart problems he has. But she is absolutely on the side of Homelander getting rid of A-Train from this group, and in no uncertain terms, just underlining the racism that she has in there and how evil a character she really is, I suppose.
Yeah. And his replacement is Caucasian.
Exactly. Yeah.
It will be a fully Caucasian group, and the trash will be gone, quote unquote.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they don't veil it at all. Like, well, they do veil it, but it's not. It's so well inferred, and as you said, the delivery. You're like, there's no uncertain terms. Well, we know. Everyone knows.
Exactly.
Terror the dog knew what they were talking about.
Yeah,
definitely. You know, just wonder what would have happened if Ashley didn't turn up. Would there have been a fight between A-Train and Stormfront there? Just thought it was a one of those moments you really have to call out, because A-Train particularly has been kicked more than anybody throughout the 2 seasons. We talked about that idea of him being a person that's always been under challenge. You know, there's loads of speedsters around the world, and he had to make sure that he was maintaining that position as number 1 speedster in the world at all time, or else he was going to lose his position in the 7. He's been under more pressure than any of the other 7 to keep their roles within this, and always wanted it more than everybody else, it seems, as well. Maeve, I don't think she could get out of there quick enough if she was able to and get out of there safely, you know. Starlight wanted to get out of there from the first time she got in there. She now works as a double agent, you know. The Deep was kicked out pretty quickly. He wants back in, though.
And he's not even the top 20 now, as we called out or they called out in the last thing. He's not even cracking the top 20 of speedsters. So
exactly,
it'd be interesting. I want to see where this goes and how this kind of how A-Train teams up with the Deep and Maeve.
I think we really have some options here for who's going to go up against the only 2 people here that really are the major antagonists for the show. I think we're seeing Homelander and Stormfront teaming up at the moment. We'll probably talk about that in a second. But the rest of the group all seem to be being pushed aside. So we may have everybody else versus those 2, or we may have Homelander also joining everybody else versus Stormfront by the end of the season. Yeah. That maybe does. I think we mentioned that before, that it seems to be going that way quite a bit. Let's talk about any other outstanding moments, any moments we haven't talked about, because there's definitely one big one. I think you got it, Chris.
I have no idea what you mean. I did want to start going in the jungle, the mighty jungle. No. Okay, we'll go with what the song they chose, which was none other than "Dream On" by Aerosmith. Okay, the music choice. Mwah. Chef's kiss. It was classic. Yeah. It was well positioned and timed for like. And I say that with the double entendre, that it was like as the percussion came in, the smashing of materials in this room was timed to the drum beats. So it was just really well done. But yeah, what I want to talk about is the last episode. There was definitely one scene that you couldn't watch with having your kids in the room at the same time. The Homelander scene. This is probably the other one, which is just going to make, if you have your kids in the room, this is going to make you uncomfortable. Parents and kids can't watch this together. Homelander and Stormfront hooking up. This is the kind of, I saw this as the kind of funny, what would happen. Remember when in the New 52 on DC, when they put Superman and Wonder Woman together? It's kind of, this is what some Superman or Wonder Woman or Earth 3, the crime syndicate, Ultraman and Ultrawoman. That was it. Ultraman and Ultrawoman. So the bad version. This is how they would knock boots, if you will. Yeah, and just like that, the line delivery, "shut up and laser my chest," was just like, we had seen that in some promotional materials. It's still not on Giphy. It will be very soon, most likely. Aside from being a very cool scene, just in terms of visually showing what would happen when these 2 very strong people knocked boots. It also just does cement the 2 of them together, that this is how Stormfront is so ingrained and in Homelander's psyche that she can control him. and she is essentially leading him around by a leash or another implement, if you will.
Maybe next time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. It's like, this is slap and tickle at its most slappiest and not so tickliest.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't sure at times whether they were fighting or having sex. I really wasn't sure whether they were just testing their powers against each other or not. At times you're kind of going, okay, that's really violent here.
I thought there was going to be so much leather brought into this scene that like the whole sort of beef herd of Argentina was going to get sort of brought on board by Homelander. And of course they ultimately reach the dizzying heights that not even Sting could muster on the tantric scale, hovering in position, which looked so wrong, but nonetheless.
It was just, can you imagine, like, that is I'd say you have Zack Snyder or anyone who's done a Superman film or anyone who's done some form of superhero scene where the superhero can fly. Just going, I wish I could have done that scene. That's just, that's great.
It was awesome. And I was just thinking, what are the mechanics behind this? How does he push off?
He vibrates super fast.
Okay, maybe. Yeah. Okay. But like, anyway, I suppose not to go down that rabbit hole. It was just so good. One thing though, when he's lasering her chest, I presume he's holding back because I suddenly got this weird theory going on in my head, which I'll come to actually on my final point. But it felt to me that she was absorbing his power. And I know she's Stormfront, and I'm thinking weather and all this kind of stuff. And he did say he was holding back, but then she kept saying more. And it was like she was able to absorb his power, at least his laser power anyway, which I thought was kind of interesting.
That's an interesting theory.
And whether that's something to do with maybe her youthful looks.
Well, I'm sure you have a theory there. They're obviously going to talk about it in a minute, but I suppose seeing that the beginning of the episode, what we saw with Homelander using those laser eyes was he cut through one person and killed a couple of people behind it.
Yeah.
That's so it's very powerful and could certainly get through human body and bones pretty easily and take out things behind it. So, if he wasn't holding back and aiming the full force of his lasers at her, and it didn't even penetrate the skin of her chest. Yeah, she's massively powerful at the very least.
Because even the other members of the Seven are scared of him and his power.
Yeah.
Yet she quite happily, in sort of foreplay, was able to take on his power.
Maybe absorbing it. That's an interesting idea. Yeah. I was getting some flashbacks to Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, their first sex scene back in the Marvel TV show, having two super heroic people or super powered people having sex. So we have seen a scene like this before, and that we've talked about on the podcast as well. But yeah, having two flying superheroes it definitely adds a dimension to the sex scene, definitely. And yeah, this show is definitely willing to show more than the Netflix shows were as well.
That is very true. But that's it for my other outstanding moment. Johners, what is your outstanding moment for this episode?
Yeah, my sort of outstanding thing, it's actually a small point, but it kind of connected in with what I was just talking about with Stormfront seemingly being able to absorb his power. And I was thinking, can she just absorb his power? But we get this moment where Stormfront's speaking with an orderly, seemingly at some kind of care home. And we also then see Starlight going into her trailer, rummaging through her laptop, and getting the name of the same place, Sage Grove. And I suddenly started wondering whether it was almost like a Dorian Gray type thing. So this is really weird. This is, I suppose, just how slightly crazy the theory is that I started to think, does she have someone at Sage Grove where effectively they are aging and she's able to stay? That's her superpower, ultimately, or part of it, that she can stay young because she projects her power to age someone else instead. And that's why there's all these calls to Sage Grove and it's all a bit hush-hush. And whilst it was very obvious that that's what Starlight was getting from her laptop effectively, although it could ultimately as well just be her mother, because we do see a picture of her mother, and it's probably more likely that. But I was kind of getting all kind of deep into sort of weird theories here. And then obviously we had the moment with the supersized slap and tickle, and I saw her as kind of absorbing the laser beam power, and I thought maybe that's then what keeps her young. So
she's drawing on the power.
She's drawing on the power, but initially I thought she was kind of, I don't know, she was aging a whole old people's care home, because that was her power to keep her young. But nonetheless, there is something of importance at Sage Grove that Stormfront has contact with. It's probably her mother. We see that picture next to the laptop actually when Starlight is getting on and getting that information of her. I think it's her call history. So this is kind of interesting. And as well, the orderly that we see Stormfront on the phone to was Shawn Ashmore from X-Men, who played Iceman.
That's right. That was
or Mr. Frost or Mr. Freeze. It is Iceman.
Yes, it was. It was kind of cool to see him in there. Definitely. Yeah.
Yes.
Popsicle.
I went for cool. Yes, I went for cool. But just to point out quickly, you know, we say that it's most likely her mother in the photograph with Stormfront. Stormfront looks her current age. Her mother looks old. She looks 70 or 80 maybe. But as we found out last episode, Stormfront was, you know, in her 20s back in the 70s, which is 50 years ago. So add the 50 years onto her 20s, Stormfront should be in her 70s. There's no possible way her mother would be alive.
Yeah.
Right? So your theory does have a little bit of credence to it, unless the photograph was taken of Stormfront back in the 80s or 70s with her mother at that time. So,
But it was nice, that little bit of mystery around Stormfront, you know, ultimately.
Yeah, no, and it's going to be interesting. I thought sister in there. That's because her sister then would be in her 70s. The sister didn't get Compound V, etc. So it'll be interesting to see.
Makes a lot of sense.
Unfortunately, due to press release and stuff, we do know who Shawn Ashmore is playing, or he does. His character plays an interesting role in the boys comic book and things like that. If we are to believe he is playing who we think he's playing, bar according to the casting announcements that happened, and they went big on it and told everyone who he was playing and the character's name. So, anywho.
Isn't that weird? I don't remember a bit of these casting announcements at all.
I do, because I was like,
the one that monitors all of our social media accounts and posts all the stuff. I probably put it on our Facebook group.
You did. It's great. You have selective memory. Well done.
That's what happens when you do 120 shows in a year. Like, guys, that's what I'm missing out. And I think the reason why you might be thinking of Stormfront as being, you know, having magic and absorbing power is possibly because of all the Lovecraft Country you've been watching over the last
probably.
Possibly. I've just got one quick note just about Black Noir and the battle at Billy Butcher's house. We talked about it a little bit. I just thought it was interesting because it felt like a big normal cable TV moment when they realized that Black Noir was outside. They closed the curtains and it felt like they go to ad break and it comes back from ad break and they have this really quick solution for sorting it out. They call the fire engine and that clears out. That gets everybody outside and they have some kind of cover effectively while they put their plan together. It felt a little bit A-teamy. If I can say that, it felt a little bit like the A-team as they build these bombs to try and distract Black Noir. I love the resolution because it shows again how powerful Black Noir is. They've effectively set up these nail bombs all around the house that will block the entry for anybody coming in to try and find them in this back room that they have that they're hidden in his aunt's house. And effectively, Black Noir just walks straight through all of them and arrives downstairs with like all these bits of nails in himself. All the bits of his uniform are blown off because he's just walked through these bombs. No problem to him at all. So it probably took him probably less than about 20 seconds to make it down to them. Instantly knocks out MM, instantly takes care of Hughie, and Billy and is about to go and kill Hughie when it stops and Billy makes his plea with them, I suppose. So, last part of the episode, really. What did you think of this resolution to the episode? Because this is the one that kind of threw me off the episode a bit. I wasn't really happy that this whole build-up, and it's 2 episodes long, because Black Noir was searching for Billy Butcher last episode. They find Billy Butcher, someone that's been the absolute bee in the bonnet, I guess, of Vought for years now. They find him, and Billy effectively just has a quick chat with Edgar and goes, well, I have proof that Homelander raped my wife, created a child. I will release it to the world unless you let me go. And Stan Edgar goes, okay, then you're free to go.
Yeah.
I felt a little anticlimactic for what's happening with Vought, but again, we're on episode 5 and there's 3 more episodes to go, and there are other ways at Billy Butcher, but it just felt a little bit anticlimactic in this particular episode.
Definitely. I thought there was going to be more here. I thought it was going to be that Billy Butcher would make the deal with the devil, with Edgar and Black Noir, because Edgar is concerned about Homelander and what he's doing, because, he's kind of... Homelander had that moment where he kind of rallied from being put down by Edgar, and so maybe him and Black Noir have got this team up, obviously. We were wondering why Black Noir had gone into the Vought control room to say was Butcher.
Yeah.
And so I liked all that element to it, but then I thought there was just going to be something more about Edgar offering him a way out or leniency or to scrub the record if, with their help, they would be taking down Homelander or something like that. Black Noir was going to be like real deep undercover in terms of what he's doing. So I thought that was going to be really good. But so I was a little bit kind of put off by that. I thought there should have been more, and maybe we'll get that in the next episode. I think the other thing was, I know you called it A-Team, but I really liked that because I really enjoyed Mother's Milk's strategy for combating Black Noir. I really liked that, and with Billy Butcher, that, well, he's going to kill us. So if he's going to kill us, he's going to have to do it in front of an audience. And that's what I thought was going to happen. So they call about the gas leak, all the fire engines turn up, everyone's coming out of their house, and then they stay in the house.
Yeah.
So I thought they were going to then walk out, get in the car, and go off whilst everyone was there.
But he's faster than a car, John.
So it was just like, okay, this is really weird. So that then they hunkered down in Judy's Taffy Room.
Yeah.
And then I had absolutely no idea. I didn't even know that they had done the nail bombs. I didn't even think of that. So all these explosions going off, and I was thinking, what is Black Noir doing up there? Rather than it being booby traps.
Right. He's blowing up parts of the house for no reason. Okay. Yeah.
I actually enjoyed this, but this for me, I'm with you, Darick. It feels weird because actually this is the first soup that was born, not made. Part about Compound V and the bad PR disaster is soups are made, not born. And with Homelander's child, it's this child is born. It is the first that we know of soup that was born. The rape part is the issue, but actually it's not a huge, if they want to take down Homelander, it's not that bad of a thing. From Edgar's point of view,
you could certainly cover it up and change the narrative. Yes,
exactly. From a PR spin potential. So this does feel off. It feels like they kind of painted themselves slightly into a narrative corner to a degree, literally up against a wall, if you will. But the potential of what it gives us is that we now know that Black Noir is working directly for Edgar. That Edgar sees everything. So the scenes where we saw Black Noir earlier, and that kind of going through the other soup terrorists was under approval of Edgar. It wasn't a Homelander joint. And also, finally, it's more that Black Noir is reporting directly to Edgar on this. So there was some questions in our head, or so definitely questions in my head, of the loyalty of Black Noir, because we saw him when the Compound V news could go out, sitting on the ground, distraught, quote unquote, like in my words, kind of when all the news was coming out. But maybe he wasn't. Maybe he was just kind of, oh God, I gotta deal with all this stuff, and the boss is gonna kill me, not Homelander, Edgar. So it will be interesting to see where it all nets out over the next few episodes.
Yeah. Just thought it was an interesting moment to highlight from the episode. I don't think there's any notes to talk about. We've kind of extensively talked about it this episode. Chris, let's go over to your corner if you want to talk about a character from the comic books that may have appeared in this episode. Who do you want to talk about?
Woof. No, I'm not going to talk about Terror. We already talked about Terror. I'm going to talk about Vic the Veep. Or in this case, it's Victoria Newman. She's portrayed by Claudia Dumit, who is this, we see her on the TV initially kind of speaking about out against Vought as this young kind of, I think someone, it's on the Chiron or something. It says like, young wonderkind congresswoman. But essentially she's this congresswoman who she's the AOC, if you will, speaking out against, Vought. So in this show, she's called Victoria Newman, Councilwoman Newman. In the comic books, we had Victor K. Newman, Vic the Veep, who was the vice president of America already at the beginning of the series, and he was the former CEO of Vought America, and very much is a pawn of Vought, 100%. And it's actually interesting because in the comic books, Vic the Veep is this slackjaw yokel. Like, it's very much made out that he is, like, he can't wipe his own behind without help. He can't do anything. He can read a teleprompter, and that's about it. He
perfect candidate for someone controlled by Vought.
Yeah,
really.
and the storyline is that they're trying to get him to become the president so that they can control, like what we've seen here. We get the soups in the army. He has the power to play that as the president or as the VP becoming president. So it's an interesting change. I'm
significant
going from in the pocket of Vought to anti-Vought. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe this is all a big ploy. Maybe this is a Stormfront plot. Who knows? But Vic the Veep, or in this Victoria Newman, could be interesting to keep an eye on this character.
Exactly. Yeah, it was interesting to see her here. We've seen her on TV a few times making speeches, I think, in the past. We haven't really seen her as a main character in the show, but it's interesting that it's a comic book character that's so different from what's presented in the comic books that you're kind of almost thinking that another company would go, it's the daughter of Vic the Veep or something like that, so they wouldn't be able to. You wouldn't be saying it is the comic book character because it's so different from what we saw.
Yeah, and it's interesting to make her the AOC equivalent that is speaking out against Vought so much. That is the young congresswoman, the shining light. Like, if you go back and look at the Chirons when she's on TV, it's very funny. Like, when we see the Fox variation versus the other news channels. They completely talk about her two different ways. But that was Chris's Corner. But at the end of Chris's Corner always comes our wrap-up, our thoughts. How did we like it? What did we think? Interesting. So I'll kick it off over to Johners first. Do you defend this episode of The Boys?
Yeah, I do defend. But I give this 3.5 tantric soups, and that isn't tomato. 3.5 tantric soups out of 5. I did really like this episode, but I found it difficult on first pass to get into. I liked a lot about it, and it's grown on me even with this discussion. It probably didn't really come across maybe in in my boys moment, the Seven moment, and outstanding moments, because I think there was a lot to like here.
Yep.
I definitely feel it's setting up the Homelander Stormfront side of things for the next 3 episodes, and how you go after Stormfront, possibly through the Sage Grove route. So I'm really looking forward to the next episode here. And I thought there was some really good stuff in this, and the ending with Stormfront and Homelander, a great moment, and just so in keeping with the boys. So yeah, I give it 3.5 tantric soups out of 5.
Excellent. Yeah, I'd agree with you. It's probably, we're just after middle of the season. It's a middling episode for me. Chris, what about yourself?
I'm right there with you, boys. It was the setup, but also I think this could have been done faster. Now, it all depends on what happens in the next 3 episodes. Some of these points may fall over into season 2, I think. But I'm really hoping it's not, because this feels like it should be a midpoint for a season, or for a 10 episode season versus an 8 episode season. So I'm kind of like, oh, you're cutting it fine here to give us a next Basil exposition episode. Well, we did get some movement, and we got a fantastic tantric floating scene, but I'm with you. It was a 3.5 if we want to store it. But there you have it, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. That is what we thought of season 2, episode 5 of The Boys. We gotta go now. But before we move over to our feedback section, boys, I think it's about time we head to the pub.
Yes, it is time for the boys pub quiz, fellow boys and girls and fellow pub quizzers. Please, if you want to be involved with the pub quiz, send in your answers to the questions from this season to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. You can send them in one at a time or all together. Each question is taken from the episode we cover. So, moving on to question 5. What animal is Tara's special, fluffy, cuddly toy?
Okay. Yes, this is the one that Hughie was handling, right?
Yes, it is the one that poor old Hughie was embracing close to his chest, and dare I say it, even closer to his mouth. Yes, what animal is Tara's special, fluffy, cuddly toy?
Excellent. We did also promise that we would have a lineup of the goodies that are available in the boys pub quiz. Go on, John. Did you do it?
I did part of it, yes.
Excellent.
So it is a pointer question, unless otherwise mentioned by the pub quiz master, myself. But the prizes will be a selection of the boys' prizes. So far we've seen a really good long-sleeved t-shirt that will form part of the pub quiz prizes. We normally do look for a drinking prize, as it is a pub quiz, so a Steiner or something like that, and we will also be looking to get the first collected edition of The Boys, the comic.
Excellent. So probably haven't confirmed for definite then, but we will confirm.
Well, two are confirmed. The one that is still yet to be identified is the drinking receptacle for your beer. The apparatus, exactly, for your alcoholic consumption. Whether that be a Steiner, a pint glass, a shot glass, or whatever, coasters from, something like that. Yeah. We'll need to see what the boys have on offer.
Yeah. The boys store is actually available. There is one that's been set up by Amazon. Since it's an Amazon Prime product, you absolutely would think they would. But some of the products, like the pop vinyls that they have available of all the boys, they're not available until April next year. So way outside the kind of realm of us giving them away as goodies in our pub quiz. So we'll find something else. Unless you wanted to say, we will remember, I promise, in April or May next year, you might get this thing. So thanks very much for that, John. That's really good. Let's get into some feedback. If you want to send us any feedback, again, you can email us to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. Pop over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries. You can also follow us over on Twitter at tvpodindustries if you want to leave any thoughts over on Twitter. First up, we have an email in from Jimmy Earn about episodes 2 and 3. He says, I really want to call out Amazon for some great innovations. Firstly, X-Ray, as this is the first time I've ever used it. And secondly, for the mini 3-episode arc release followed by week to week. This is an excellent way to whet the appetite rather than one by one or all at once. Some highlights from the first few episodes for me are the whale scene. Wow, I have never seen anything like this. Although, sort of wish I had not seen it in the trailer. But still, I'm really not sure whether to laugh or turn away moment. The Deep in particular is such a great character. I would happily watch a spin-off just of his misadventures.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that, Jimmy.
Definitely.
Jimmy goes on to say the Soup's reactions to the Compound V news, especially Noir looking devastated, hopefully meaning this will mean some more depth to his character later in the season after that cool episode 1 opener. Stormfront's shocking, pun intended, heel turn was effective and should bring some fun clashes with Homelander. It certainly did in this episode, Jimmy. Perhaps it might have even been better to hold off a bit longer to really make it a surprise. Not 8 seasons like Game of Thrones, but I guess they will have good reasons for revealing this now, especially if she had been hand-selected by Vought. Perhaps she has something to do with the Liberty mentioned during the phone call. Ooh, good catch there. Good catch. That is exactly what it was. Jimmy says, I also have to mention that whole trailer storyboard scene in the boardroom, a spot-on piece of satire. All they needed was a joke about removing the CGI mustache from Homelander to really ram that one home. Looking forward to the next few episodes, which can't come soon enough. Jimmy, you know what? They didn't use the CGI mustache, but they did do the rewrites by Joss Whedon. So, they definitely nailed that one.
No, they got it. Thank you, Jimmy, for the feedback. You have a Chris level clairvoyance in terms of making wild, outlandish ideas that turn out to be right.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the Deep. Could definitely see that spin-off.
Definitely.
And more importantly, I'm with you on X-Ray. X-Ray is an amazing kind of tool that like really gets overlooked in that it's great for all this just random trivia for each episode. So you can jump to different parts and it will tell you very interesting pieces of trivia. And
also 2 additional videos created for this season that are up there. My Daddy Works for Vought, a video with Ryan and Homelander, which is quite funny. And another one as well. So go check those out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thanks, Jimmy, for that. Really good. I'm with you and Chris here on the Deep and on Black Noir as well. I really kind of want to see some kind of addition to this character because he is just so mysterious, for sure. On Twitter, Will B says, for episode 4 of Boys, we worry about how dangerous ego-driven police and politicians are. It's interesting seeing what could happen if those same mindsets were paired with a superpowered person. Also, the way Homelander fires A-Train, go. Yeah, absolutely. I think we definitely see the crucible, the genesis of the pairing of someone like Homelander with someone as dangerous as Stormfront will be definitely something to see and how that plays out for sure.
Absolutely, and the pairing of people like them with their mindsets and superpowers is definitely something that the Boys is exploring this season.
Yeah. Thank you, Will, for the feedback over on Twitter.
Yeah, thanks, Will.
Over on Facebook, Angie had this to say about episode 4. Did you know Stormfront is the name of a Nazi organization? So I kind of thought she was a bad actor from the start. I'm just giving her name. Did not know that part. So thank you.
No, I didn't.
I obviously knew her from the comic books, or I should say knew him from the comic books and that part. But Stormfront, interesting. They could have should have just gone with old SS. Just really
it does sound a little jackbooty, doesn't it, actually, when you read it out loud.
Although it would have been so much funnier if they gave her like the German accent from Hello Hello. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Don't worry.
It really wouldn't.
It really would be Chris.
Thank you, Angie. But also quickly moving on to feedback from Salim Ikisla for episode 4. Salim says, we all know Homelander is sick, but holy F. It was also cool to hear Mother's Milk's backstory. Cherie is a saint. I was really hoping for Kimiko Stormfront battle, but I'm sure it's just a matter of time. And poor Hughie, Poor Billy, though I fully expect him to be back with the team and back on his revenge path next episode, maybe after a run-in with Black Noir.
Excellent.
Yes, we definitely, I must say, that was really intriguing, Black Noir sort of searching him out. Salim goes on to say, all that, plus Homelander outing Maeve, A-Train is out, Stormfront is in Homelander's head, and we just keep learning more terrible things about her. This episode really traded in the laughs and shocking moments for the tension, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to the podcast and next week. R.I.P. Doppelganger as well. Yes, definitely. Poor Doppelganger. Dead. Well, I suppose there's been plenty of politicians found in similar uncompromising positions, no doubt. But yeah, Doppelganger gone.
Yes.
But not forgotten.
I will take this moment very quickly. Thank you for the feedback, Liam. That if you are not following Anthony Starr on his social channels, please do. We got a fantastic couple of behind the scenes shots of him filming in his little negligee number. And it was hilarious.
Excellent. I'll have to check that out, Chris. It sounds hilarious. Bob Phillips also added his thoughts about episode 4 of the show. He says his soups moment was Doppelganger and Homelander sharing tender moments by the firelight. This episode is Homelander and Stormfront sharing their tender moments by the firelight.
Well, she throws him into the fire.
Exactly. Bob's boys moment was Annie and Hughie sitting in their seats. Singing. Love it. Bob says, these are, I think, wonderful examples of how The Boys has something uncynical within it. The idea that for everyone there is one true love, except Frenchie. He's Polly all the way. The momentous moment for Bob is definitely the longevity of Nazis.
Well, that is true. They just keep on sprouting up, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's thank you, Bob, for that lovely
thanks,
moment
Bob.
at the end. I was with you all the way until you made me upset. Anyway, no, seriously, thank you, Bob, for the feedback as always. We also got some feedback from Chris Agai, who said, I don't think I have been on edge this much for an hour of television recently. I expected something really terrible to happen every new scene. I love what they do with Stormfront. She's offhandedly slaughtered 59 people in that building. And where are they going with her? And how scarily realistic they included that far-right theme without hitting you over the head with it. And, off the cuff, Aya Cash is so good as this horrible character. I'm also very curious about her connection to Vought. Chris went on to say, the Homelander doppelganger scene caught me completely off guard, and until the last scene, I was absolutely confused about these snippets of the interviews with the women. That Church of the Collective stuff got really creepy really fast. Overall, I loved that episode. A bit lighter on the action, but very dense in character moments, and information for episodes to come. And I expected Homelander crashing through the wall roof and murdering someone at almost any time during the whole episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Chris, I think we all did.
For the whole series, really, isn't it?
That's me as well. Yeah. I think in this episode as well, on episode 5, I had the same moments, the same in episode 4, for sure. It's just like...
Absolutely. Really good thoughts, Chris. Thanks so much for them. We didn't even mention the Deep's blindingly difficult to watch interview with Katie Couric on TV, where you're like, oh god, this is awful.
I know.
I make you pancakes in bed every morning.
The saccharine laughs as well was just priceless.
It was a
Loved
complete
it.
rip of the Katie Holmes Tom Cruise interview. I was expecting him to jump on the couch and do the jump on the couch. I just think they went, no, we won't make it that on the nose.
Yeah, it's pretty on the nose.
Dear. Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for the feedback. We got some feedback from Donald Dennis as well. In all, a low action episode, but one that didn't feel terribly slow because of all the developments and was a needed breather. It let us take a break from the plentiful deaths in the first 3 episodes and allowed us to reconnect with the better natures of characters who have been through some serious shit. The singing was a really nice character beat that went on just long enough. It showed they both shared a common interest and that Mother's Milk was willing to indulge them engaging in this odd relationship up to a point. even if it was tragically white. Then the donut and ice cream conversation was pure gold, as was Petty Hughie grieving over her choices of candy bar. I love bitter honey, though. It is the most underrated candy bar ever. That's really interesting, Donald, because in another TV episode, there was mention of one of the other candy bars from the show as well, Charleston Chew. So, yeah, really interesting. I have never had them.
No.
Dare I say.
I had to reach out to one of our awesome listeners, Steve Brown, to find out whether the 3 candy bars that were in your question last week, whether they were real, because I'd had somebody ask me, and I didn't know. Steve says they all did exist in the past. They are real bars. Not necessarily all still made now. But yes, they are 3 candy bars. I'm not going to say them out loud because you've already given clues to 2 of them.
I know.
For your question.
I was thinking
out
that.
of 3, but you've only given 1 point, so that's okay. Thanks so much for that, Donald.
Yeah, thanks, Donald.
Andy Gaston says, Doppelganger was a real pal there and Homelander killed him for no reason. What a jerk.
Absolutely.
A real pal. That's
maybe because of it.
Maybe. Jamie Alexander says, I feel knots in my stomach every time Homelander is on screen. Last season he was an a-hole, but now he seems capable of anything, and that scares me. What he did to Maeve was absolutely awful. The Stormfront Liberty collection blows my mind. Really great episode with a lot to process. I can't believe we have to wait a week to see what happens next.
Yes, I love the waiting the week, I have to say. I'm back. I'm 100% for it. It's just that builds that anticipation.
Exactly.
As they say in Rocky Horror Picture Show. Rounding out, we also got some final feedback from Jimmy Earn, who sent his thoughts on episode 4. A really interesting episode this week, which almost didn't feel like a superhero action show. More a slow burn drama. Above it all, it was an opportunity to showcase some high quality acting from the cast. Homelander was, as usual, fantastic. Not content with owning every scene he's in, he even managed to appear twice in the same scene. I have nothing more to add to what you all said in the discussion, but wanted to say how good it was to give more time to some of the more side characters who we don't often get as much screen time. He goes on to say, I thought Mother's Milk was the standout this week, with some great moments in facial acting, like his reaction when Billy asked him to lead the Spice Girls, his annoyance with Annie and Hughie singing on their road trip, and of course, his story of how his father led him to joining the boys. Adding his OCD tendencies make him a well more rounded supporting character, and thanks to Chris for his extra background during Chris's Corner. No problem. Happy to help. Jimmy went on to say, Becca is another character being played really well, especially considering the actress barely appeared in season 1. She seems really good at showing different sides of her emotion, fear of Homelander, but willingness to stand up to him when it comes to her son, happiness at being with Billy, but tough enough to know that they can't be together any longer. I also hope this isn't the last we see of her, but agree with the prediction that Ryan will play a major part in the season finale. Yeah. The other was Queen Maeve, who I'm sorry to say, for me, is the least interesting member of the 7, for now, but had a much better time this week with that incredibly tough TV interview scene and the confrontation afterwards. It would be good to see more of her and what she really is capable of as a soup, having done relatively little since the airline crash. How about a fight between her and Stormfront, who is more likely to turn out to be homophobic? Definitely that. I think we talked about that in this episode. Jimmy finished his feedback with one last thing. When Team MM stopped during their road trip, they seemed to be in some sort of pub with that sold donuts. I know you guys have more experience in the US than me, so need to know, is this common in the States? And if so, we need to introduce them in the UK. I don't think it was a pub. I think it was more of a kind of boutique diner kind of donut shop.
Yeah, I think I'd like a side the road kind of convenience, which we definitely have in the UK and Ireland. Yeah, but To be honest, I've seen a lot of things in bars in the US that I haven't seen in Europe. It's a different scene, you know. They'll sell anything anywhere basically if they got a good deal with the local Dunkin' Donuts to sell donuts in a bar. They absolutely would do that.
Tasty.
It's not as stripped down as we would have over here, where it's like, you know, maybe some pig snacks and some peanuts and some crisps, and that's all you'd really get in a bar. Otherwise, you're there to drink. Nothing else, lads. Yeah,
no, you need pig snacks for ballast.
And for all our listeners, write in with feedback of what you think pig snacks are. That's definitely one that you're all going to go, huh? But, gentlemen, we also have one final piece of feedback. A voicemail from none other than Steve Brown.
Hello, TV Podcast Industries. This is Steve. This is for The Boys, episode 4 of season 2. Wow. So much revealed in this episode, but let's see. I'll stick to the format here if I can. My 7 moment is that very last scene. I don't know what's creepier. Homelander killing himself in killing Doppelganger, or the fact that there was no music soundtrack throughout the credits. Like, I literally stared at the screen for maybe 30 seconds or more, just listening to that fire crackling over the sound. It was just creepy. My boys moment, I do love the scene in the car with Annie and Hughie singing "We Didn't Start the Fire," but I love the fact that they're maybe getting back together. We'll see. You know, she said it can't happen again, but you know, we've heard that before, so we'll see what happens there with our boys moment. But you know, the big huge thing of the whole episode is just the reveal that Stormfront is apparently 70 years old or more, and maybe this whole Compound V, you know, slows down the aging process or stops it altogether. Is going to be interesting as they reveal it through the rest of the season. Okay, can't wait to hear what you guys thought. Talk to you later.
Thanks so much, Steve. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I was wondering, was it the fire crackling, or was it Doppelganger's bones still kind of being cracked by Homelander? It could have been both. In which case, still the stare at the black screen with the credits rolling is an apt thing to do there for sure. Yeah.
Gosh, you're getting darker and darker as these weeks go on.
It is what The Boys does to me. It makes me very dark. It puts me in tune with my inner horror fan.
Yeah, well, maybe Lovecraft Country's also doing that to you as well.
I need to kind of watch Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
That's also gone very dark, John.
No, the first one.
Oh, the original. Okay,
Melissa Joan Hart. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And Melissa and Joey as well. I think I've liked everything she's ever been in.
You can also go old school. You can go like the say like 60. What was it? The 66 Batman with a bit of kapow and wallop.
Exactly.
Adam West,
I definitely watched that.
Caesar Merrill with his. There's a mustache link. There you go. When the Joker had his mustache.
That is true. Oh god, that is so awful. Right. Yeah.
And speaking of which, I'm going to round out this episode because you all are going weird. Thanks so much for joining us again this week. Please send in feedback on episode 5 as soon as you've seen the episode, and we'll discuss it next week on our discussion about The Boys Season 2, Episode 6, The Bloody Doors Off.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Remember, write a review on Apple Podcasts and share the love, because sharing the love is sharing the podcast. Subscribe at tvpodcastindustries.com for all the links everywhere you need it. Remember, you can go to patreon.com/tvpodcastindustries and support us just for $1 to help keep the mics running, the lights on, and all that stuff. In the immortal words of this episode, we gotta go now.
We certainly do. Thanks so much, fellow boys and girls, for joining us. It's a pleasure chit-chatting with you about The Boys. Remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep it tantric.
Nice. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.